Hey there, so let's talk about that box probably sitting under your desk, the UPS. If you've always thought of it as just a big backup battery for blackouts, well, we're about to change that. Because today, we're going to pull back the curtain and show you how these things are actually full-time bodyguards for your most valuable tech, fighting off a constant, invisible enemy. So here's the game plan for today. First, we're going to expose the hidden dangers lurking in your wall sockets. Then we'll meet the two main types of these electronic guardians and pit them against each other in a head-to-head showdown. After that, I'll walk you through exactly how to size your own shield, and we'll wrap up by meeting the top players in the game. Stick around, and you'll walk away knowing exactly what you need.
All right, let's get right into it. That threat I mentioned, it's not just the big, dramatic blackouts. Nope. The real, everyday enemy is something called dirty power. Think of it as a constant barrage of tiny problems. Surges, which are these sudden voltage spikes. Sags, which are little dips in power. And just general electrical noise from everything else plugged into the grid. And this stuff, it's hitting your outlets all day, every day.
And here's why that matters. All your expensive tech, your gaming rig, that work-from-home setup, any servers you're running, that stuff is getting hit by this instability constantly. It's basically a death by 1,000 tiny cuts for the super delicate electronics inside. It's slowly killing your gear, and you'd never even know it. So the big question is, how do you actually guard against an attack you can't even see? Well, that's where our solution comes in. And it's not a one-size-fits-all answer. There are actually two different approaches, two different philosophies for protecting your gear. All right, let's meet our two main contenders, the online UPS and the offline UPS. The best way to think about them is like two totally different types of bodyguards. They both have the same job, protect the client, which is your expensive electronics, but they go about it in completely different ways. Okay, first up, we've got the online UPS. You can think of this one as the total perfectionist bodyguard. It's intense. It takes the power coming from your wall, rebuilds it from the ground up into this perfect, clean, stable stream of energy, and that's what it feeds to your devices. This whole process is called double conversion, and it means your gear is completely, 100% isolated from the messy power grid. It is always working 24/7.
And then you've got the other guy, the offline UPS, also known as a standby UPS. This one is more like a secret service agent. It's the efficient, practical type. Most of the time, it just stands by, letting the normal power from the wall pass straight through. It's just monitoring. But the instant it senses a problem, boom, it snaps into action and switches over to its battery.
All right, so you've met our two guardians. Now it's time for the head-to-head showdown. To figure out which one is the right choice for you, we've got to break it down and see how they stack up against each other on the stuff that really counts. Okay, this really gets to the heart of it. It's the core difference between them. The online UPS is always on, constantly creating fresh power for your gear and keeping it totally isolated. The offline UPS, on the other hand, only kicks into gear and switches to its battery power when things go wrong. And that one single difference, it changes everything.
So let's break down the pros and cons, because this is where you start to see the trade-offs. With an online UPS, the pros are huge. You get zero delay when the power cuts out, and the power is constantly being cleaned and perfected. But the cons? It costs more upfront, and it's less energy efficient. Now, the offline UPS, its pros are that it's way cheaper to buy, uses less electricity, and runs quieter. The downside, though, is that there's a tiny delay when it switches over, and it doesn't really clean up the power day to day. That makes it a no-go for really critical stuff.
And that delay I just mentioned, that's probably the most critical piece of this entire puzzle. It's called the transfer time, and it can be the one thing that makes or breaks your decision. So for an online UPS, the transfer time is, wait for it, 0. 0 milliseconds. Nada. Because it's already running everything off its own clean power, there's no switch to flip when the power goes out. The transition is totally, completely, absolutely seamless. And here's why that 0 is such a big deal. A lot of really sensitive equipment, we're talking data servers, medical gear, that kind of thing, they can only handle a power gap of maybe 2 to 4 milliseconds before they just reboot. Now, an offline UPS has a transfer time of 5 to 10 milliseconds, which, I mean, that's incredibly fast, right? Blink of an eye. But for that critical gear, it's an eternity. That tiny gap is long enough to cause a crash. So let's bring this back to the real world. What does this actually mean for you? Well, it's pretty simple. If you're protecting things where a reboot would be catastrophic, like data centers, medical equipment, or high-end scientific workstations, you absolutely need an online UPS. No question. But
for your desktop computer at home, your Wi-Fi router, or maybe a point-of-sale system in a shop. An offline UPS is going to do the job just fine and save you a bunch of money.
Okay, so hopefully now you've got a good idea of which type of Guardian you need. But that's only half the battle. Now we need to figure out how strong that Guardian needs to be. We've got to size your shield, and trust me, getting this part right is just as important.
And don't worry, this isn't some crazy complicated math problem. I'm going to walk you through it right now. It's actually a really simple 3-step process to find that perfect fit.
All right, step 1. Make a list of every single device you want to protect. Your PC, your monitors, your router, everything. Then just add up their total power consumption. You'll find it on the back of the device, usually in watts or sometimes VA. Step 2, and this is super important, take that total number and multiply it by 1.25. That gives you a 25% safety buffer, which is crucial for handling power spikes and gives you room to add more gear later. And finally, step 3. Just go find a UPS that has a capacity rating higher than that final number you calculated. That's it. You're done.
Okay, perfect. You know the type you need, you know the size you need. So where do you actually go to buy one? Let's finish up by taking a quick look at the top players in the market, the main brands you're going to see out there. So, at the top end, you've got the heavy hitters for big businesses and data centers, brands like APC, Vertiv, and Eaton. Then there's CyberPower, which is a really popular choice because it hits that sweet spot of good features for a good price, perfect for home offices or small businesses. You'll also see names like Zigor and K-Star for more specialized, high-performance stuff. And of course, there are plenty of budget-friendly brands too, like Apollo, MaxScreen, and Digital X that can get the job done for basic needs.
And while you're looking at all of these brands, just remember this one key thing. Picking the type of UPS is important, for sure. But picking the right size is what makes it reliable. Don't, whatever you do, skimp on that safety margin. It's the difference between it working and not working when you actually need it.
So when you think about it, everything from your work to your family photos to your late-night gaming sessions, so much of our lives is digital now. And all of it, every single bit, is sitting there vulnerable to the whims of the power grid. So I'll just leave you with this one question. Your digital life is on the line. Is it protected?